All right, let's do something fun. Let's apply these concepts that we've been talking about. So statements are sentences that are either true or false, and arguments are groups of statements that have been brought into a particular relationship with one another. And that relationship is that some number of those offered statements are being offered as reasons to believe the conclusion statement that's been offered is a true statement. All right, so with that definition in mind, let's look at some arguments. So you've got 4 groups of statements up here. Do any of them meet our definition of argument? Okay, so you want to think really carefully about that definition of argument that is on here. I think it's in 1.1, chapter 1.1, chapter summary. Really think carefully about that definition and apply it to each of these 4 groups of statements and ask yourself, is this an argument? Now, if it's an argument, you should be able to identify what the conclusion is. What's the statement that we're being told is true, and we're being told is true because these other statements, these premises are true. So we want to get good at identifying in arguments what the conclusion statement is and what the premise statements are. Now, as a challenge to you, I'm going to wager that you get at least one of these wrong. Okay? So now what you have to do to prove me wrong is you have to pause your video. You have to look at each of these 4 groups of statements, and you have to determine which ones are arguments and which ones are not. All right, so pause that video so that you can prove me wrong, that you will identify correctly all of the arguments that are here. And when you're ready to go, restart your video and we'll have fun and see if I was wrong. Hopefully I am wrong, that you get them all right. All right. Netflix is a better service than Amazon Prime because Netflix offers more movies and TV shows than Amazon Prime. That's an argument. Okay, that's an argument because it has a conclusion statement here. This person is making a claim about the relative quality of Netflix versus Amazon. They're making the claim that Netflix is actually better than Amazon. And the reason that they're offering that claim is that Netflix offers more movies and TV shows than Amazon. They think that the fact that Netflix offers more movies and TV shows than Amazon Prime makes the statement Netflix is a better service than Amazon Prime true. Okay? Now, we might disagree about whether or not that's the relevant criteria for judging these streaming services, but the point is you can see here that this meets the definition of argument. Somebody is attempting to prove that one of their statements is true, Netflix is better than Amazon, by providing us other statements that they think demonstrate that statement is true. But the statement Biden is an untrustworthy president is not an argument. Okay, this is just a claim. It's just a statement. It's either true or false, and of course we'd have to determine what exactly you mean by untrustworthy. But as it stands, it might become an argument, but not until we start offering reasons or premises that we think prove or demonstrate that this claim is true. Okay, so right now all we have in front of us is a statement or a claim, but we don't have an argument because there's no reasons offered. As soon as somebody says, here's why I think it's the case that Biden is an untrustworthy president, and they start providing evidence that they believe supports that claim, then they're making an argument. We might not ultimately be convinced that their claim has been proven, but we'll recognize that they're offering to us a group of statements in which one or more is attempting to provide reasons or evidence for believing that this claim here is true. Now, the last statement that I gave you is also an argument. The coolest people on earth play the banjo, and banjo players drink good beer. Therefore, the coolest people on earth drink good beer. Yes, that's an argument. The conclusion here is the statement, the coolest people on earth drink good beer. And we say, why do you think that's the case? You've made this claim. You've drawn some conclusion about a group of people. What's your basis for that? And the moment you ask that, what you're really asking is, make your argument. What are your reasons for believing that's true? And then this person would come back and say, well, look at my first 2 statements. I told you that the coolest people on earth play banjo. And I also told you that banjo players drink good beer. Therefore, if the coolest people on earth are banjo players and these banjo players drink good beer, it has to be the case that the coolest people on earth drink good beer. And we have an argument. In fact, this is a very particular kind of argument that we're going to look at in a couple of weeks. Now, the one I'm going to bet you got wrong, my challenge, was this one. John mercilessly taunts his students because he has deep insecurities and feels better about himself when others are humiliated. I'm going to bet you said that's an argument, but it's not, and here's why. And it's a really tricky one, so if you did get this one wrong, don't beat yourself up about it. And if you got this one right, and you said that's not an argument, Bravo, look at you. So here's why this isn't an argument. There's a claim being made here. The claim is that John mercilessly taunts his students. Okay, you'd say, all right, well, why do you think that's the case? Why do you think it's true that he mercilessly taunts his students? And if you think about what's offered here following the because, it's not really proving or giving reason to believe that he actually does this to his students. It's instead explaining a theory about why he does it, but it doesn't prove that he does it. And this is going to become really important for us here in an upcoming lecture. So arguments are an attempt to prove that something is the case, but an explanation just simply seeks to explain why something is the case, but not necessarily prove that it's the case. So imagine that you're in this situation. You want to file a complaint against me, and the complaint is that dude mercilessly taunts his students, and hopefully there's some sort of due process at the college where they say, well, what evidence do you have that would prove that claim true? And if you came forward and said, it's like because he's super insecure and he feels better about himself when others are humiliated, hopefully the college will look at you and say, well, that's not really proof. Or maybe a theory about his psychological motivations for doing something, but I'm asking you, what evidence do you have that he actually does what you claim? And what kind of evidence would you offer? So maybe what you do is you'd secretly tape recording me you'd bring forward like one of these video lectures, and you'd say like, look, let's see right here, he told me that I was going to get one wrong before he even allowed me an attempt. And that's just to humiliate me. He's taunting me. All right, that might prove it. Maybe you secretly record me outside of a face-to-face classroom where I'm just like really taunting everybody in the room. Or maybe you bring forward like a bunch of student evaluations where it's like, look, all these student evaluations, I've got all these complaints about him taunting his students. And now what you're doing is you're starting to make an argument. John mercilessly taunts his students because I have this video right here where he is telling them they're going to get a problem wrong before they even get to attempt it. That's sort of taunting me. I have these student petitions where all of these students of his have complained that he taunts them all the time. And I've got this secret recording of him that I took outside his classroom where he's taunting all the students in the room. Now you're making a case. Now you're providing statements that would seem to demonstrate your claim about me mercilessly taunting students is true. And then you'd have an argument. All right, the next one we'll try a little bit of a trickier argument.